Money Makes. My name is Callie, and today we're going to be making espresso chocolate chip cookies. So these cookies are the perfect quick and easy dessert for you coffee lovers out there. These cookies are absolutely amazing. They have the perfect texture. They're going to be slightly crispy on the exterior and soft and chewy on the interior, and they're just out of this world, and I can't wait to share this recipe with you. So let's make some cookies, but before we begin, as always, please remember to subscribe, like, share, chat in the comment section, and follow me on social media for more recipes and additional content. So these are the ingredients that we are going to be using. I have some granulated sugar, brown sugar. I have some dark chocolate. Rather than using dark chocolate chips, which you absolutely can, I am going to be using a bar of dark chocolate that I've just roughly chopped up. And what you get from that is some larger pieces of chocolate like so that you would not get from using just chocolate chips. And you also get some kind of smaller pieces that really just blend in the cookie really well, and I think just kind of like maximize that chocolatey flavor. It's really awesome, but use whatever you have. I also have some vanilla, of course. Here, these are espresso chocolate chip cookies, but they also, I guess, could be called coffee chocolate chip cookies, whichever you have. I am using some instant coffee granules that I've just added a little bit of water to. Just heat it up until they dissolve, give it a stir, and then you get this. You want this coffee flavor to be very, very strong. We don't want to add too much liquid in the form of like water and coffee into this recipe. So the granules, I think, are the way to go. It's a little bit thicker than what you get from like a cup of coffee, and you can make it as strong as you want. So that's what I'm going to be using. I have 1 large egg, salt, melted butter, some all-purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda, and just a touch of cinnamon. So let's get into it. First things first, let's grab all of our dry ingredients. So that is our flour, baking powder, baking soda, our cinnamon. I think the cinnamon just adds a nice flavor to this recipe, and it kind of complements all of the other flavors that we have going on here. So I'm gonna be using that. I just added a little bit of salt, and I'm just gonna give this a stir, just a quick stir to kind of get these dry ingredients nice and incorporated. Okay. Perfect. So I'm going to set this aside. Moving on to our wet ingredients, which includes both types of sugar. And to this, I'm going to throw in my melted butter. So I love using melted butter in cookie recipes because what you get from melted butter, rather than what you would get from using, say, butter just softened to room temperature, is a chewier cookie. And I love a really chewy cookie. And I just think it has really great flavor. So that's what we're going to be using. Okay, so now that that's combined, we're gonna throw in our egg, give this a little whisk until it's combined, of course. Okay, so this is looking good. I'm gonna switch back over to my spatula. I'm gonna grab my dry ingredients and add all of this in, along with, of course, the vanilla and the coffee. Here we go. And so in my regular, just chocolate chip cookie recipe, I always add a little bit of coffee powder or instant coffee to the recipe, just because I think that all the chocolate chip cookies just go perfectly with the flavor of coffee, especially with the dark chocolate. I think it's just so delicious. But we're really gonna add quite a bit in this recipe to really make that coffee shine, rather than just kind of give these cookies a nice depth of flavor, which I feel like it does in just my traditional chocolate chip cookie recipe. So, okay, now that that is all combined, let's throw in all of our dark chocolate chips. And I like to reserve just a few to kind of top the cookies once they are on the baking sheet before they go in the oven. Completely optional, but I'm just gonna set just a few aside. Now I'm gonna fold these in, which will take just a few seconds. And as you can see here, they are just so much larger chunks of chocolate in here than what you'd ever get from chocolate chips. But like I said, if you wanna make this recipe and you have chocolate already at home that's in the form of chocolate chips, and you don't have a block of chocolate, just go ahead and use that. But I highly recommend using a bar of chocolate and cutting it up if you can. Okay, so next up comes the hardest part of the whole recipe, which is to refrigerate the dough for an hour. I know if you're anything like me and have no patience, this is gonna be very difficult to not just bake these cookies right now, but I'm telling you, if you were to bake them right now, they're gonna come out of the oven quite flat. If you give these some time to chill in the refrigerator, what's gonna happen is that butter is going to solidify again, which is gonna help the cookies puff up slightly. They're not gonna be, you know, really large and puffy, but you don't want them to be flat as a pancake, I guess. So I'm just going to do that. We pop these into the refrigerator for an hour. If you want to refrigerate these longer than an hour, say you want to maybe make these in the morning and then bake them at nighttime, you could do that as well, but just refrigerate for a minimum of an hour and you are going to be happy you did. If I didn't think that it made a big difference, I wouldn't include it in the recipe. So I will see you in an hour and then we are going to bake these up. Okay, so an hour and a half later, my dough is nice and chilled. My oven is also preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure that's nice and hot. And so all I'm gonna do is just scoop some dollops of the batter that is quite chilled, which is good, onto my baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep lining my parchment paper, and once I'm finished, I'm going to pop this into the oven for about 9 or 10 minutes. And here is the trick to the perfect cookie that has just the perfect texture, that's really soft and chewy on the inside. And that trick is to underbake the dough. So like I said, only bake it for about 9 or 10 minutes. It's not gonna look fully cooked, but once you take it out of the oven and let it sit for a few minutes, what's gonna happen is the cookie is going to continue to set and it will finish baking in that time. So be sure to do that if you want just the perfect texture on your cookie, and I'm going to say that in this recipe and so many other cookie recipes that I put out. And also, I am just, as you can see here, just dotting the top with a little bit of extra chocolate. Again, not mandatory, but it is going to make it just a little bit more chocolatey, and who is going to complain about that? So I am going to continue doing this, and then I'm going to give you a close-up of just how absolutely amazing these cookies really are. Okay, so 10 minutes later and you get these beautiful cookies that are chewy and soft and absolutely amazing. They have the best flavor, the best texture, and you are going to love them. So, as always, for the full written recipe and instructions, head to my blog, mooneymakes.com. I'll put the link for that in the description box below. Click on the link, the recipe will come right up, and make these espresso chocolate chip cookies. I promise you're going to love them, and let me know what you think because I love to hear from you. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.